And welcome to Steppin' Out with Betty. And here she is, Miss Betty Lee.
Welcome to Stepping Out with Betty. Whether it's at noon or after 5, whether we strut or stride, we are stepping out. And today we are introducing our Simply Tea segment with Miss Shirley Hines. And we're talking about the virtuous wife and what it means to be a good wife. And what does that look like? So help me welcome to Stepping Out with Miss Betty, Shirley Hines.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So, Miss Shirley, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, my name is Shirley Hines. I was married in 2006 to my husband. We've been married almost 13 years now. Mm-hmm. God brought an amazing man into my life as a husband. But one of the things that I've had to learn on this journey is how to be that godly wife.
Right.
When we're single, everybody desires to get on the other side. But there's a lot of work that goes into being that wife that God called you to be.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's what I want us to focus on today. What does that look like? Because when I got married, and I've been married 22 years, and in those 22 years, we've had our good, we've had the bad, and we've had the ugly. So let's talk about that, because where I really want to start at is being a wife. We give so much of ourselves to our spouses, to our children, to those that are around us, but how do we take time for ourselves?
Yeah, that's very important. And I think along this journey, the last 13 years with my husband, I have had to give God his place. Because when God is removed from the equation, everything else becomes a priority. We give to our children, we give to our spouses, we give to our employers, we give to our friends, and we are left empty. Pretty much empty. And as a result of that, we're not complete within ourselves, so we're not giving everything that we could. To those important factors in our life. So for me, it's just taking time to pray, to set aside, even if it's no more than 15 minutes, just set aside that time for me and God. What's my next set of instructions? Give me my order for today. And so as busy as we get in our lives,
as busy as we get in our lives.
Yes, we have to make time for God.
So when you say make time for God, that's like taking time out in the morning and centering yourself.
Yes.
And being able to separate the junk. That's what I call it. You know, centering myself, meditating, receiving to hear from God, to know what my instructions are for that day, and then I'll have that peace.
Yes.
And then anything that comes that's not of that peace is junk.
It's distraction.
Right.
Yes.
So go ahead, talk about it, because I know you know more than I do. So.
And so that place for me in the morning, I have a daily journal that I use. So I'm a writer, not as far as an author, but I love to write my thoughts down. And so it starts with a daily devotion. So I read a quick devotion, and then I go to the scriptures. And a lot of times I'll tell you, as a wife, as a mom, those important moments where God is really speaking, don't be surprised if your husband wakes up and wants you to come back to bed.
Oh my goodness.
Don't be surprised if you hear little pitter patter of feet coming to interrupt your session.
So you're saying that when our spouses or children interrupt our quiet time, that's okay?
That's okay. God said he will still give us exactly what we need when we need it. And so the hard part of that is wanting to be interrupted. Do I really want this interruption right now? And to be honest, none of us want
to be interrupted.
Because that time with God,
you're focused and you got everything in your mind. So it's like, let me get this done, and then I can address you. Yeah.
Yes, and there's times where I have to tell my husband I need a minute, or I have to tell my son to go sit with dad for a minute, or go wake your dad up. But there's times where God is saying it's completely okay, because we're going to connect again today.
And that's a woosah moment.
Yes.
And so you get to have 2 woosah moments with God instead of looking at it as though my time was interrupted.
Yes.
And then I'm hearing too perspective.
Yeah.
We got to have a perspective in where we are in that situation.
Yes. Because if not, it takes on a negative connotation. And so the rest of your day becomes negative.
Right.
Just because of a small interruption in your morning with God. And so just making sure that we allow God to move the way He wants to move. He's going to ensure that we have what we need.
And so, with that being said, so we are the influencers for our household.
Yes, we are.
And so we have the authority to set the standard and the tone for what goes in our house. And I'm hearing it's like that saying that says, if mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy.
Yes, that is a point, but I would like to add that if daddy's not happy, nobody's happy as well. And God calls us into a streamline of order. And one of the things that my husband and I share together is a scripture. It's Ephesians 5:33. And it says for the husbands to love their wives as they love themselves. And for the wife to respect her husband. A wife must respect her husband. And why would God tell us to respect our husbands is a question that I have often asked myself.
And what did He say?
And He said we're disrespectful.
Oh my God. Disrespectful.
As wives, naturally, we're disrespectful.
Why are we disrespectful?
We're disrespectful because we look for something from our husbands, and that is love.
Well, isn't that what we're supposed to do?
We should, but we should first look to God for that love.
Wow.
The second thing is husbands don't love us naturally. Our husbands have to be taught, and that's why God says it in Scripture, for them to love their wives as they love themselves.
Okay.
They know how to love themselves.
Wow.
But do they necessarily know how to love their wives? And it is intentional that God put this in His Word.
What?
Intentional.
And when it's intentional, that means I put it there for a purpose, not for a trap.
Correct.
But for a purpose to help you to be better.
To be better.
Now that sounds kind of awkward of God.
Our God is so amazing.
Yes.
And He has everything we need in His Word.
Correct.
And I think as wives, when we understand that our husbands don't know how to love us naturally and they need the help of God to love us, then we can have compassion for them. And the compassion also comes from me is I don't know how to respect my husband naturally. That comes with the help of God. And what looks like respect in my marriage is not necessarily going to look like respect in your marriage.
So let's talk about that respect in the marriage and what that looks like.
Okay. Let's talk
So,
about that.
Yeah, go ahead.
And so what that looks like for me, my husband is with his personality, he's a person that pays attention to details. He will not move unless he has the details of what next steps are. Me as his wife, I don't need the details. I'm going to make the details as I go. And so, as you know, that probably drives him crazy.
Okay.
And so, as a means of respect in my own marriage, I have to do my due diligence of when something is about to take place to give my husband as much details as I can, which takes me outside of myself. And so I put him first. Okay, so I'm going to do this event, but I need to let my husband know what time it starts, what time it ends, what time I'll possibly be back, what I'll be doing when I get there. And most people may say, that's just way too much.
I was thinking that because I was like, that's a little bit controlling. I mean, if you are not a part of the event, I'm a grown woman. Why do I need to tell you when I'm going to be back? And I hear God telling me now because things happen and they need to know for your safety.
Yes. And that's...
But I'm still like, that's controlling. You don't need to know that much information, Miss Shirley. I know my husband's probably like, hold on, there she goes.
I was once
but I'm going to get some deliverance in this process too, so help me.
I was once there, and I felt like I'm grown. I don't have to give you all of this, but here's what God began to show me. That's not a want from him, that's a need.
Right.
And just like there's things that I need from him that are not necessarily wants, that brings him out of his comfort zone, that's a need for him. And I love my husband enough to supply that need.
Right.
How much is it going to cost me to give him a few extra details to let him rest in peace as I'm gone?
Right. And then again, that goes back to creating an environment in your household where everyone can thrive.
Yes.
And you don't want to leave him out and make him feel inferior.
Yes. I want to validate who he is, the man that God created him to be. So I even say this to my wives with unsaved husbands who don't know God and don't care to know God. You are still required as a godly wife to respect that man. That Bible says, as a wife, you must respect your husband.
Okay, so now you said if they are not a godly wife. So if they're not a godly wife, how are they being held to those same standards as a godly wife?
So as a non-godly wife and a godly wife, we want to flourish in our marriages.
Right.
And you begin to see the change and the difference in your spouse when you put this principle into practice.
So let's slow down, let's slow walk this. So as a non-believer, we are asking them to put in practice to respect their spouse, which is a divine order. So if they don't know God and they don't believe God, I mean, how would they know that?
This comes with, for a non-godly wife, it's results.
Okay.
So if you're ready for your marriage to change, whether you believe in God or not, respect is something that your husband
common,
needs.
it's universal.
Yes.
Okay.
And so it transcends what you believe spiritually, but it brings results into the place that's broken.
Right.
And so, again, for me, I didn't know this in the beginning of our marriage.
I don't think nobody know that other than, I mean, you know, when you say respect, you think of, you know, yes, I'm going to be respectful in front of him and not do anything to disrespect his character. But now we're talking about a whole nother level of respect as far as giving them details and things that they require as a man.
Yes.
I mean, we never even knew that growing up. Let me speak for myself. What men needed or what was required as a wife prior to getting married. Those conversations, I don't recall having a conversation like that. Had you ever had a conversation like that?
I had not. And I had not seen many marriages like that.
Talk about that right there, the marriages that we've seen that weren't like that.
Yes.
Because they want us oftentimes to model our marriages after a marriage that we've seen, which in itself was not a healthy marriage.
Correct.
And oftentimes they slept in separate beds, but nobody even knew that. So yet you want me to model this marriage, but it's not even a healthy marriage. Talk about that.
Correct. For me, growing up watching my mom, she didn't marry my dad, but she ended up marrying my stepdad. And let me be very clear, what I'm not saying to wives who are probably going through a lot in their marriages, God never called you to be a doormat.
Right.
But he did call you to do your part. And so your part is to be respectful to that husband. And I'll use my grandmother as an example. My grandmother and my grandfather were married until death did them part. But they were separated for over 40 years.
Wow.
She never divorced him.
Wow.
But in her respect and honoring God, she would go get his clothes and wash them every week. They lived separately. And she would prepare meals for him. I can't say that I would necessarily sign up for that. And then watching that as a child growing up, everything in me said that was not right.
Right.
That was, God never called you to be tied to something like that.
And not only that, I said, that's not the type of marriage that I want.
Yes.
I don't want that.
Yes.
If that's what I have to get married and move into, I'm not going to do that.
Yes. So I think there was some respect principles that were there, but there were some other things that was missing. And just as you said, I don't think God signs us up to be married that way. As a marriage, the two are supposed to be one. We should be communing with each other. We should be intimate, and we should be taking this life together, taking this journey together.
The journey.
Yes. And so I hadn't had a lot of good examples in front of me. And so getting married now produced this hellion of a woman, as I may say.
It was not only you, there are millions of hellions out there.
Yes.
And we're hoping that this Simply Tea segment will help them gain an understanding on how to get back on the right path. Because just because you made some bad decisions or were giving wrong information, mistaught, I guess I should say that, mistaught, doesn't mean that you're a bad person.
It doesn't.
Yes.
And God will eventually, if you give him total reign, he will get you to the place of understanding.
Okay.
And for me, understanding was this whole love and respect principle that serves us in the Word of God. And my job as a wife, and I tell anyone who's newly married, trying to get married, old in their marriage, or divorced from marriage, your job as a wife is to respect your husband.
Respect your husband. And then their job is to respect their wife too, right?
Their job
Because
is
it's the
to
hellion raising
love.
up in me. This hellion is raising up. So their job is to love,
Now,
not to respect.
Let me give you the respect piece of this. Men respect naturally.
Okay.
A man will respect another man naturally.
Okay. Well, they're giving me a signal. So let's just pause.
Okay.
Okay. So, yeah, that was some tea. And I trying to process and hear you and like, oh God, that's good. Because we don't get that. We didn't get that growing up.
No.
We didn't get that teaching. We didn't get that instruction. So, okay. So we're going to come back next week with the second part of this, because I need to keep this going, because I still feel some type of way.
Yeah.
That hellion was raised up. So,
Gotcha.
yeah, so thank you so much for stepping out with Betty. I hope you enjoyed that Simply Tea segment. And that's just what we're doing, presenting Simply Tea and having a conversation about what goes on in our daily lives. So thank you so much for stepping out with Betty. We'll be right back after this break.
Thank you.
Hey Queen City, I'm Betty Leak, your host of Stepping Out with Betty. Whether it's at noon or after 5, whether we strut or stride, we are stepping out. Catch us on Access 21 every Tuesday at 1 and 10 p.m. Also, connect with us on social media at Stepping Out with Betty. Stay tuned and stay connected. Love you and mean it. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm here with Mr. Bazil at Merck's Heart and Soul, and he is going to prepare for us a salmon dish.
Yeah, we're making salmon cakes. You know, the traditional southern dish. I don't know about you, I grew up with it with my mom.
I did too.
But the only difference is, my mom used to use canned salmon.
Right.
What we do is take first salmon fillets, and I'm gonna give you, you'll have a recipe for it, like 2 fillets. We take first fillets, and then we poach it. And you say, oh, how you poach them? It's really simple. Either you can cover them with water and put them in the pan in the oven, or you can take boiling water and drop them in and bring them up.
Okay.
Warm it up.
So that's the same salmon.
They're the same salmon, but already cooked.
Okay.
Just like your mother canned salmon was already cooked.
With no bones.
With no bones. Can we pause again? The Trinity that is in New Orleans. Celery, onions, and peppers. We chop those up. also going to use cracker meal. I don't use flour with them. I use cracker meal in mine.
What's the difference?
Cracker meal is just like regular. It's not as fine. They help bind it, but it won't be as fine as flour have a. You heard people say it had that flour taste? That's what it is.
Okay.
But these cracker meal already been cooked, ground up.
So crackling, like crackling cornbread?
Like crackers.
Oh, cracker.
Cracker meal.
Cracker meal.
And well, this cracker meal here. And we use garlic, egg, lemon juice.
Okay.
And we always do a little spice in it, and we use sriracha.
Okay. That's your little secret recipe, huh?
Yeah, we use sriracha in a lot of items. And one other item that I don't have here, I use adobo. Adobo is my seasoning salt.
Okay.
So what we do is simply mix it all together. How much you say? On the lemon juice on the recipe it called like 2 tablespoons.
So you know that by eye?
Yeah. And you know, garlic. I use granulated garlic. And we're not making a full thing, we only make a small one. Cracker meal, help bind it.
So you know the cracker meal to make it a certain consistency.
Right, to help bind it. Below that.
Help bind it.
Yeah, we're only doing one. So go ahead. Now we take a mixture of the celery, onions, and peppers. Mix that in. And I do everything by hand. So you mix it by hand, just like your mama used to make it with hand. Now, if it seems a little too loose for you, which that one does, add a little more cracker meal.
What made you decide to use the salmon steaks instead of the regular one out of the can? Fresher taste?
Story. When me and my wife, before we opened up, we went to Bank of America, corporate dining room upstairs. The chef came out. Oh, this crab cakes are the best crab cakes. You know, you gotta make the greatest crab cakes. So I tasted them. I said, they're okay. I said, you know what? I can make them as good. And then I told him, I was thinking, I said, I'll do something. We hadn't opened a restaurant. I said, we ought to do something like that at the restaurant. I said, but I want to do crab cake to make it that expensive. I said, I know I'll do fresh salmon. That's why I got that different.
Okay.
I had no idea they were going to be on the menu until I had lunch that day.
And you tasted it?
I tasted his, but that made me think of salmon cakes.
Okay. And so what did you make with it? What do you serve it with? Salmon cakes and what?
Salmon cake, our salmon cake comes with 2 sides. But we serve all our seafood with remoulade sauce.
Remoulade sauce?
Yeah. And our remoulade sauce is lemon juice, blackened and seasoned, onion.
Okay.
We make a patty like this. And we make hundreds of these.
Are you making those for me and John?
Yes.
Oh, wonderful.
Pat it out.
And then you say you serve it with what?
Remoulade sauce.
And what, that's it?
And we're any size you want.
Oh, okay.
It comes with 2 sides.
Okay.
Well, the appetizer.
Okay. I'm still stuck on the salmon patties and grits.
Yeah, that's good. We sell a lot of that on the weekend. We only do breakfast on the weekend.
You only do breakfast on the weekend?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, now we're going to pick it up here and grill it, okay?
All right.
You can do this at home in your pan, same way. I have did it at home in my pan. I have did it in restaurant in my pan when I needed it. I ain't have it working right.
Well, what about those skillet pans, those black
Oh, they're
skillets?
great. Black skillet would be great to use.
Okay, and just a little bit of oil.
Yeah. But now just look at the degrees of pan, that's all.
Can we use olive oil?
I
Or does it have to be vegetable?
I always use olive oil.
Always use olive oil. Because we want to be healthy.
It's going to be healthy. So, it's all to it.
And how long does that take?
Depending on how
How hot your grill is?
Yeah.
You don't want it too hot.
all burn.
But it's like a medium.
Yeah. Depending on what you're using, like I said. Like this grill, just not get started. I want you to go red and hot in.
And then, like you say, you're only cooking the eggs and the ingredients that you put in the
Carolina, I'm cooking my kitchen next to the Halloween. Go to my wife. It's great. They got air conditioning. They ain't never done a kitchen that has air conditioning.
Now, where's your wife? You and your wife live together, right?
Yeah. She don't work in the restaurant anymore. She used to help in the house with the books and the checks. But when we first started, she was here with me.
Well, thank you so much for doing that. I can't wait to taste it. I love salmon bags. I'm ready to get this.
Well, I didn't put no double on it that time.
So no double gonna be what's gonna tell us what.
So you got no salt.
I probably don't need salt anyway. I am ready to taste this. It looks delicious. I love salmon cake, so I'm looking forward to tasting this.
I didn't forget. I wasn't looking for it.
Last year was supposed to be there revival year, wasn't it?
Yeah, we did like it.
Yeah, it was here, we did.
Yummy, yummy. In my tummy. Thanks so much for stepping out with Betty. We'll be back next week with part 2 of A Virtuous Wife. Thanks so much for stepping out with Betty.